Today in our Relationship Friday conversation is one that I guess a lot of men will say, oh, thank God you're discussing this today because I've been wanting my partner to know this, but I simply don't know how to say it to her. So, men go through so many things. They go through a lot of challenges. They go through a lot of frustrations. Sometimes they are low on cash. But what can women do? Sometimes you find that a man is not well, for instance. What kind of support is there, or can the woman give? That's Amos Kevin Annan is joining me for this conversation. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah.
And I'm a man.
Thank God. But this is a powerful conversation.
It is.
This is one that we hardly talk about.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging that we have opted to bring to the fore a conversation that focuses on men. Because more often than not, the men's issues take back burner position and the women's agenda comes onto the fore, and it's a front burner matter. And so it's good that we can have such a conversation.
But my understanding is that men are quite straightforward. So are there things that eat you up that you don't talk about?
Oh, certainly, yes. You see, males and men in general are raised to handle their issues, to contain it. Now, sadly, when it is that we hit a brick wall, then it implodes within us or it explodes in the faces of those around us. And you can go back to what is said in the local language in Akan Bermansu in English to it, man no cry. Okay, that's the popular street rendition of it. And so many men want to show how strong they are by not shedding tears, not showing weakness. And so that damages our capacity to solicit help. But for women, help is seen as complementary. So a man sees my desire to be helped as weakness, generally speaking. There may be isolated cases of men who really go out of the way to look for help. But many men, typically you tell your spouse, can we go and talk to a counselor? To do what?
Yeah.
And they immediately go into a defensive mode because the orientation is that show no weakness, show no soft part of you, show that toughness. And yet we struggle with things. I mean, even the strongest of men has latent fears that he has. And he needs somebody around him who could give him assurance. That kind of reassurance must come to his life. Otherwise, he's going to be struggling quietly and dying slowly. And will start showing in other areas of how he manages situations.
So, women are quite observant. We can see when something is bothering you. If the man doesn't want to talk about it, what do you do?
Well, you have to ask yourself, when is it that I'm brokering this conversation? So, for instance, if he's watching his favorite game, he's not going to be in a position to have a conversation on a matter that bothers him, even though you may have noticed that clearly it is visible in his face, on his forehead, boldly, engraved. Now, with your intuitive grace that you have as women, you can predict it. But it's also about timing when it is that you start that conversation. Now, what is the mode of the man? Is he in a cheerful mode, where his mood is just, friendly and welcoming? Or he's in a mode where he's frustrated, and therefore, if you raise this heavy conversation, he's not going to respond. So timing is important. The mode in which the man finds himself is equally critical. And then the kind of approach the woman is using. If the woman is using an approach where she's going to fix him, because I see there's a problem, I want to fix him. No man wants to be fixed. Simplistic.
Okay.
So for the women who take to themselves a strategy to fix their men, you are always going to be frustrated, I can tell you.
Let me just remind you, if you're just joining us, we're streaming this conversation live on Facebook. So you can carry it with you if it's time for you to move. It's our Relationship Friday. We're talking about what women can do. I think the next chapter is, okay, you know what is wrong. You know that there are financial issues. You know that he's frustrated, for instance, with work. You know that he's got some infidelity issues. How do you begin to support?
Yeah, I mean, so you are there as a co-support to him. You share this support system where he supports you, you also support him.
But you're not fixing him.
Now, you are not fixing him.
Yeah.
You see that there's a clear evidence of financial turbulence or trouble or difficulties. And yet the man has been oriented to say, no, there's no difficulty. So what does a woman do? You step in and try to provide that solace that the man will need to be able to continue his journey. You are supposed to be a helpmeet suitable for your man. So that means that you're not looking at other men, but you're looking at this man and design something in response to him. Which area is he having the battles? Is it about school fees for the children? If it is about school fees, are you solvent enough to supply the absence? You do so, and you don't make it a reference point. Unfortunately, some women do it to spite the men, do it and let the children know that I have done it this time around. And that can be overly harsh for a man who would want to appreciate the support intervention of a spouse. Some women creatively would give that same resource to the man to go and still do the payments. That adds to the dignity of the man. You don't rob him of his dignity. And it is important that such men who receive such kind gesture should also show appreciation. And where it is that the woman does it and the man does not recognize, let alone celebrate what has been done, then the women become disenchanted and they no longer will do it.
Yeah. He doesn't even
or
see
if they're
what
going
I
to do it right in the presence of the children, they hand the money to you. This is the children's school fees. Please, can you use it? You know, you go to a restaurant. My wife does it sometimes. We are there, and then we order the things, and then she slips money under the table and says, use this as a buffer. I'm not too sure how much you have on you. And then she slips it under the table. And the children don't know what she has given to me. And then I take the money and walk out to the restroom and make sure I add it to mine and then come and pay. Daddy's dignity has been intact.
Yeah.
Because the children want to see Daddy was the one who was financing that. And that shows that he's responsible. But sometimes I just sit quiet and she'll pay.
Yeah.
And that is also done. But it must not be done to make the man feel that he's good for nothing. He's useless. So finances. The man is struggling with infidelity. The issue of infidelity comes in two strands. There are those who have a habit which is terrible that leads them into perpetual infidelity. Yesterday I was reading about somebody who had 2,000 women. Yeah.
As in the Bible? Or
no, not in the Bible, in real life. I mean, he was a basketball player. This guy at the time could, in one game, do 100 points.
And women love popular guys.
And he said, oh, I'm done with you and that's bye-bye.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you again. And he could count as many as 2,000.
Oh, wow. That's a very strong man.
That's sad, isn't it? So if you have such a person who's stuck in his way and decides that this is the route I'm going to go.
Shouldn't you just leave honestly?
It's very interesting. I read the story of Magic Johnson and his wife, Cookies. also. I mean, the man was in a stable marriage and he was still sleeping around. The wife stayed with him.
How do you do that, honestly?
That's tough. It's a tough call. So the fact that the person has committed an act of infidelity is not strong a basis to leave him.
Do the men expect the women to stay to support them?
Many men will wish their wives will stay and support them through the process. Especially there are those who are caught in what I would describe as accidental infidelity.
Is there anything like that?
There is. I mean, when a man takes for granted that overtures and adventurous character of a woman, he becomes a victim rather than a perpetrator of an act. But the question then is, couldn't he have been vigilant?
While he was still doing it, you know, like when your shirt was going off,
you knew.
Were you dazed? You didn't know what was happening?
We've read stories of
your
men,
trousers was going up.
We've read stories of men who were under a spell. We've read stories about men who were sedated. We read stories about men who really were victims rather than perpetrators. I mean, we have women that can be described as vultures. And they prey upon you and scavenge. Those women are powerful women. I mean, you may know your game, you may know your script, but they know how to get you because they'll pull the rocks under your feet. You know, so there's a need for the men also, of course, to be vigilant so that you don't become a victim of accidental infidelity. But there are those who do it with a posture of recalcitrant nature, where they say, this is me. I can't help it. As for me, dear, this is how I am. Me and women, dear, I have a thing for women. I mean, please.
And I'm supposed to be there and just support you?
No, that's unacceptable. You can't find justification when it is that you've gone into a union of exclusivity. Love must not be dispersed like water on the streets. You must drink water from your own cistern. And this is early morning, but let me say it. It says, let the breast of your wife satisfy you.
When you decide to support a man like that, you expect change?
You expect change that is evidential, change that may not be drastic but gradual, because it's going to be a long walk. Sometimes it could be a nightmare. So you don't expect a smooth sailing journey. That's to the woman, because it can be a rollicking ride for a lot of these men. Habits formed are difficult to break. It's like sleeping on a comfortable bed and having to rise early. It's a struggle. You are in there and it's cozy, it's relaxing, it gives you therapy. So to rise up early, you need effort, you need discipline, you need dedication, you need a drive in you. So where it is that the man doesn't have natural disposition to the drive, and the woman is going to drive him, then she must drive him gently along. When you sit with the young ladies, for instance, who are prying into married men's lives, they always try, or per what they say, to supply what is missing in the marriage.
Yeah.
So for instance, my wife is just a complainant rather than a companion.
Yeah.
My wife is there, she denies me sex, and that's a big one, is the adrenaline of the union when it comes to the man. But because the man can separate his feelings from the act of sex, women don't relate with that, because their feelings are tied into any act of romance or sex. So you see your wife giving you a roadblock and raising red flags that no. Red says stop. The man is wondering, what has happened to my wife? No, she's connecting the issues that are unresolved to her giving herself to you. And if she goes out of the norm, the way to do it is an act of generosity. It's a kind deed being extended to you as a gesture. And you should not take that for granted, and don't make that a norm, because women don't want that pattern to be a norm. Now, the man must show change that is visible. And he must make himself accountable to the wife. Because you see, indeed, the body of the husband belongs to the wife. Because she exercises stewardship over the body and ensures that his fitness level is right, and he has his fears allayed, his frustrations minimized, his financial well-being also, leveraged. So where it is that the woman is not playing these roles, somebody from the external part comes in and says, I'm supplying that. And some men accommodate and tolerate those things. Others will say, well, she doesn't respect me. And it's important that women understand that the man must not feel respected. He must think respected.
What's the difference?
There's a big difference because it's not sentimental. He needs to cognitively process it and come to the conclusion that there is respect. It's not just feelings, because men are not, a man's feelings usually will lead him to an advantage position because he touches the woman and feelings just, he drags you along. But really, he needs to process. He needs to see tangible things that show that, yeah, I now can see there's an evidence that my wife respects me. The way she talks to me, not like a schoolboy. She does not instruct me like one of the children. She recognizes that I'm the man in the house. It does not matter my financial position, whether it's high or low. I'm still the man, and I need that boost, that recognition as the man. Unfortunately, some women deny the men these things, and they are driven into the abyss. And so he gets out there, and somebody targets him to lift him up to the cliff. And that's a dangerous thing. I've never seen any man who is in the abyss and have been uplifted by somebody who is adventurous and they have not been a victim. I'm yet to find one.
Because that's easy.
Yeah, because see, when you are in a state of vulnerability, whoever comes to extend kind deeds and gestures towards you, you tend to develop attachment and create space for them.
Then you commit to them.
And it's easy to be dragged along gradually, and then you, sometimes there's even no commitment, but you get yourself into situations that are compromising.
But if you support a man like that, won't he begin to think that, oh, my wife even knows, so, and she knows that I am working on it? Is that not an excuse to continue doing it?
For the men who find solace in I'm working on it and remain where they were before, it's unfortunate. Because what you do then is that you join the wife's efforts aimed at helping you. And she's no longer going to give you this clemency again. She's not. She's not going to give you this clean sheet to start again, because she notices that you're taking her generosity for granted, or sometimes even you think she's weak. And so now she will no longer want to be weak again. She's going to be brave, bold, courageous, and confront the issues. And that is where some of the women become very hostile and antagonistic. And it's almost like you're fixing the man, and frustrations will be deeper.
So Shelley is watching from Mamprobi. Shelley has sent me a text message. By the way, you can send me a regular text message. You can also send me a WhatsApp with the same number. Shelley is asking why the men can't support their wives too when they commit infidelity. That's Shelley's question.
I think that's a good call. It's a good call. We are not on this set endorsing infidelity. But for those who are in a state where one party may have committed infidelity, there's a need to show an act of graciousness towards the person you claim you love. Because my principle is this: love is most appreciated when the person appears unlovable. If I love those who are lovable, I mean, what's the effect?
Is it, with your experience, is it easier for a man to forgive a woman, or the other way?
Well, it's like easy for the women to let go and move on, but it's tough for many men not to make it a constant reference. And that's why I think that there is some inequity. There's some disequilibrium in the way this fleshes out. There's a need for us to do it across board. If women are letting go of the previous misdeeds of men, why can't men also forgive and let go the misdeeds of their significant persons.
Can you expect a man to absolutely stay faithful knowing that the woman has been unfaithful in the past?
Well, unless he's driven by vengeance, I don't see why he shouldn't stay faithful. I mean, because if you become vengeful, then you want to retaliate. I mean, that retaliation is something that you want to avoid at all costs. When spouses go for this tit for tat, butter for bread, then we'll have a problem, because we should not be vengeful towards each other. I mean, the truth of the matter is that sometimes you are in so much pain, you are driven into a state of inactivity. That temporal state of inactivity can be interpreted to mean many things. But just ensure that you are also not going to make yourself vulnerable so that you start doing other things. Like a spouse who caught the other party in infidelity and said, okay, I'm also going to find somebody. I mean, when you get to that state, then you are in big trouble. I mean, you don't say because you found your spouse chatting, sexting with somebody or sex chatting someone, you also want to start that. Because the question is, what are your own value systems? What are your own foundations?
What
that
if
comes to play?
What if you are aware of what you're doing, you're conscious?
You're deliberate?
Yes, but you know, you've said it to the person and they're still not changing. I mean, they are always texting really nice things to somebody that they shouldn't be doing that to.
Yeah, those individuals need help other than from you. They need accountable relationships that will help them desist from this habit that is detrimental to the union. And sometimes it is that the woman has good motives, intentions to assist, but the tools she deploys in assisting almost becomes like teleguiding, micromanaging, and that can be very frustrating. Who wants their life to be micromanaged? You feel caged, you're almost like boxed in. But you see, when spouses understand that we have mutual responsibility for and to each other, we must show mutual accountability to and for each other. So I'm accountable to you where it is you are my spouse, but I'm also responsible to you and for you. So I have your best interest at heart. But where the other party assumes, wrongly or rightfully, that this person is trying to do me in, then they take a certain defensive posture and they become recalcitrant, so they won't change. In a can they say, tin, 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 you know, swabble bro, otim. He's firm in his position, he won't move. There's not going to be any shift at all. But when a third party, and this is where it has to be done carefully, the third party must not be somebody your husband reasonably concludes is a threat to him, or is somebody who could undermine his status, or someone who is too close to you as a woman and therefore has a certain biased position against the man.
Okay.
Because the man will read into all these angles and conclude that, no, I'm not going to submit to this person. I'm not going to get anywhere into the space of this fellow. And then if it's somebody who has a previous history of deriding men, using disparaging commentaries around men, no man will go to such a person.
So we've talked about the finances, we've talked about infidelity. In fact, we've spent quite a bit of time on that. Frustrations.
Yeah, that's a big
with
one.
work. That's one big challenge, but not most men will talk about it easily.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it is that the woman is not too familiar with the nature of his work and how it exerts pressure and influence on the man. And they take for granted the energy that is taken from the man, that's sapped away. That can be the first point of frustration, because she doesn't know the nature of my work, the nuances.
So how do I even begin to share the frustration?
Frustration, she won't even understand.
Yeah.
When I talk, she's just on a different plane.
Yeah.
So that's the first point. When a man is in such a state, there's no way he's going to share his frustrations with his wife. The second thing is this, that many men don't want to lose. So the heightened nature of our competitive response to matters makes it difficult for us to embrace when we are losing it, when things aren't going right. And so we still clutch onto straw. There's a high degree of hope, which is okay, but that can take you to a certain level where it destroys you. It destroys you as a man. And so there's a need for the men to also come to a point where they reorient themselves into appreciating that when the going gets tough, it's not always the tough that gets going. It's also the supported, the encouraged, the strengthened that gets going. Because they are in the company of people they find safe, and they can have an anchor in those individuals. And who best can provide you an anchor and a solace than the person you share a bed with? Let's not just be bed mates, but we should also carry the burdens together.
Sometimes it's interesting. A wife may not know the details of the husband's work, may not have long conversations about his work. In fact, she may easily conclude that, oh, he doesn't like talking about his work. But you'd find that he has a female friend that he's talking about work with.
Yeah.
And we get that a lot. You know, sometimes you can have long chats with another colleague about work, and you know that he's not doing that with his wife.
Yeah. You know, oftentimes it is the case that those women are relating with the boy in the man and not the man in the man.
Oh, wow.
The wife is actually dwelling with the man in the man, and therefore there tends to be this high expectation. But the other woman who is chatting him has come and noticed his vulnerable part, his soft part, the part that you can handle gently and generously with grace. And so the man becomes...
How can a wife miss that?
Well, I mean, you see, familiarity is a big enemy in this matter. I know him too well. I can predict him. I mean, you take things for granted. But the other lady knows that this is a catch, opportunity not to be missed. So what do? They give them a fertile soil for them to be relaxed, so they show their most weak part. But the wife takes no weakness.
Would a man be comfortable, absolutely, the way that he would talk to other women about their work and the challenges, the frustrations and all that? Would they be absolutely comfortable dealing with their wives on that same level?
They should and they can when the atmosphere is so created. You see, it's all about the atmosphere, the ambience that you create for the man to feel vulnerable and still not see himself to become a casualty. But where he thinks that if I become vulnerable and overly transparent, this is going to be used as a weapon against me. Because you see, a problem shared may be half solved, but a problem shared with the wrong person who uses that as a weapon becomes a problem that has become exponentially bigger. And so even though you are supposed to be there to help him as the significant person in his life, create the atmosphere for him to feel relaxing. I call something the Delilah therapy. Can you imagine your husband is going through frustrations and he comes home and the wife sits with him in the couch and places his head on the lap? Makes him feel very relaxed. That's a therapy intervention. Delilah therapy. Give to your husband. He's going to be relaxed. Run your fingers through his skull. Touch the head of the crown of the head. It goes to the sole of his feet. You see him blinking his eyes like this. You can put him to sleep. It's a good therapy.
Yeah.
Give it to your spouses. Other young folks are giving to some big men out there. You know, can you imagine a home manager kneeling down in front of an 18-year-old intern asking for a hug? A manager. When he would not even go on his knees in front of his wife. What is the missing link? The women get too settled because we have married. And they stop some stuff. Mama, they stop some stuff.
Yeah?
Those things that sustained the spark and kept the revival mode ongoing needs to be restored.
If you're
Don't forget we are focusing on the man.
Yes, if you're consistently doing those things, would you still have your man like that?
You should.
Even though the interns still walking
the interns
around?
will be there. You see, when you are, it's like biblically it is said that when you see a man who is eating, he had eaten sufficiently and he's filled up. There's this restaurant where they have a meal they call Fill Me Up. And Fill Me Up is a very interesting one. I mean, you can't eat Fill Me Up and want anything else. So what I need is the wives should give the men the Fill Me Up condition.
Okay.
Look, he will not notice those adventurous women.
Yeah.
He's not going to see them. Make him feel keenly because you are the queen. So that invite him to the royal palace and don't put barricades at the royal palace. I'm speaking in parables, I know, because I'm.
Yeah, because if
you know, there's a cross barricade with heavy padlocks, and the man is running around, turning around, doing all the gymnastics, and still there's a roadblock.
Yeah.
So he goes fait accompli.
There's a text message here. Says, what qualities in a woman shows that she's supportive?
Okay.
And when you feel that your spouse is not industrious, what do you do? It's from Amos from Tamale.
Okay, my namesake. Well, I mean, one of the sterling qualities you want to look out for is a woman who respects you as a man. Not a woman who denigrates you and derides you.
You know, you said something about respect before.
Thinking respect.
But, yeah. But, you know, when I relate to you, you know, like, you, and over time you become like my friend, you become like my colleague, you know, like whatever. Could it be that I'm not even aware that maybe I'm disrespecting you by the way I'm talking to you or something of the sort?
Yeah, that's possible because familiarity comes in. It is said familiarity breeds contempt. So that contemptuous posture is as a result of me becoming overly familiar with you. Because we sleep in the same bed. So there's nothing dynamic, nothing exciting, thrilling anymore. The thrills have settled. The men operate on the thrill of the hunter. So he's going to give all his best. He's willing to die to have the lady. But when he has the lady, he ceases to die anymore.
So what kind of respect are you still expecting in the marriage? Like, you know, when me and you are cool.
It's the same thing as a man asking, what kind of affection do you want again after all this? I've given you enough affection. From day one, I've been affectionate. I sign off yours affectionately, affectionately yours, thinking of you, loving you evermore. I mean, he's been signing off all these things all this while. Miss you, love you, crazy about you. Why do you expect him to now say it again? You see, so there's a point where both of us need to come and say that, well, this is the fuel that we need to power our engines. The man needs his respect. Don't take it from him.
Okay.
Accord him that respect. The second thing is a woman who brings you relief. They are not the spendthrift. They are not the kind that is adventurous, exploitative, run you out of resources and find a way to escape. You need a woman who will provide you relief because sometimes it is the case that you know that single income streams cannot sustain today's families that much. So a double income family where the wife is solvent enough to supply some bits and pieces here and there, that does not mean the man reneges on his responsibility. He does what is his rightful duties to do. But the wife brings relief, showing she is considerate because she's a helpmeet suitable for me. I call it the designer love intervention. You need to design your love for your spouse and you can't share it with somebody else. Then also, a woman who gives you recognition. Not only does she respect you, she recognizes you. To the extent that in public she affirms you, privately she affirms you still. Some women can't celebrate their men in public. They can't. They deride them. They say things about them that destroys the man's image and reputation. So when your husband is coming to your workplace, dare him. All the ladies know about him. Because you have damaged him beyond repairs. No, that's serious. He gets into your family arena and nobody regards him, and you are wondering, why does my sister talk to you like that? Why is my auntie eyeing you in this way? It's because of what you've told about him. Because the wife is supposed to be a crown on the head of the man. And the man is supposed to be the cloak that clothes his wife with adornment. So when I see a wife, I should see the husband reflected in her adorning. And when I see the man, I should see the wife on him as a crown. Unfortunately, many men, their crowns have been taken by their own wife. So he comes to your family and he has no significant status. Because of the things you have said to your mother, to your father, to your brother, to your sister, to your aunties about him, he's a man who is an empty shell, dead on arrival. So you can only dignify your husband in public by affirming him in the eyes of others. And which affirmation none else but you can supply.
So all these things will come together.
They will come. They'll find their place. You see, when the principles are kept, every other thing will fall in line. But sometimes it is that we cut our nose to spite our own face. You are wondering why your husband has so much disregard when it comes to those close to you. But you forget the kind of things you have said about him to those individuals. And sometimes we say those things out of anger, frustration, bitterness, and pain. You can be excused on that, but don't perpetuate it and make it a pattern of your life.
Here's another message. In fact, we're getting lots of messages, so I hope that we'll be able to run through as many as possible. This one says, how do you manage the situation where your husband can have long chats with other people and not you?
I mean, those things need to be stopped. Those men who are doing these things should stop. Because sometimes we are home, we operate on a one-liner forum, where it is that your wife asks you, how was work? Fine. But a lady asks you, how was work? Oh, it went so well. Charlie, you can't believe it. This guy who just came to the workplace, then you start going, blah, 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 blah. Then your spouse is asking you, just give her one-liner. When you could give a paragraph to another woman. So that is unfair. If any man is doing that, he should desist from it. But it is also that sometimes the wives ask questions and they look like BNI officials. And so they would rather be careful what they tell you. They are walking on ice, walking on tenterhooks. And so the thing is this, that we need to create the ambience and the environment for them to be disclosing. And it is not that he doesn't want to talk. If the man can chat a lady for that long, when you are in the office, what do you do with him? Why don't you raise conversations that can elicit from him long chats? You ignore all those things and another lady is chatting him. It's the same thing. If a man doesn't talk with his wife, there will be a problem also. So we ourselves need to create that condition to chat. And make it relaxing enough so that it's non-threatening, non-interrogative, non-teleguiding. Some people want to find a fault with you. I mean, so they can draw circles around you. I mean, you see, you brought yourself, as they would say.
So the man is also cautious because he doesn't know what you want to pick on exactly. No. So let me leave some out. Let me just be safe.
He doesn't have to be vulnerable. He's struggling with somebody in the office and he can't tell you. I have a friend who noticed a young lady was trying to make advances towards him and had told some friends that this man of God, I'm going to make him fall. He went straight to his wife and told him, I've gotten some inside information from a circle of young ladies that one of their friends had boldly declared he'll make me fall. You know what the wife did? She decided to pay attention to the young lady. Cross-fertilization of intervention to secure her husband. Not long, the girl brings a gift to this man on his birthday. A girl who has swore to make you fall. If the viper won't bite you, he won't show his fangs. This is a clear evidence of a lady who's adventurous and extremely bold at that. But the wife, being a woman of grace, intervened. She assured the husband that she is behind him. His back is covered. Even when the young lady brought the gift, it was this woman who took the gift and spent an all night over it praying to secure her husband, and asked the husband, who was so stricken with fear, that you can wear it. Wear it back to the office and show it to the lady you have it, because you have me as your covering. How many wives and husbands are not afraid of their nakedness? Because when those nakedness are revealed, it will be a weapon that will haunt them the rest of their lives. Every husband and wife has an obligation, a godly one at that, to cover the nakedness of their spouse. So the question is this: when your nakedness is exposed, would you be ashamed?
Here's a message, and Alberta is telling us about her husband. Says, honestly, my husband is the best. Alberta Dubois,
We thank God that there are some best men out there.
campus, sending this message. And today you have to forgive me because the messages are ciao. This one says, Michael, is divorce a sin that can take you to hell? How do you manage women who are very rigid? I mean, she does not respect your views, but respects her family and friends more than you. Let me box a few together. This one says, what about the men who abuse their wives in public? He shouts on her as a pastor, insults her in public. He makes unilateral decisions, don't always bang on the women. Okay, I'm not sure if I quite get that. This one says, good morning. My problem is, how do I package my love for my husband to feel at home? It seems there's always tension in between us, though we don't fight or quarrel. Every conversation seems to be question and answer.
I mean, such a person, first and foremost, try to understand the personality type of your husband. Work very hard to also understand his love dialect, what he would call love. Because we all don't call every and anything love. We have specific things, when they are rendered to us, we conclude that this is love. And that could be a window into his life. And then also, if you can, try to read more about the psychology of men. And there are a lot of resources on that, online and hard copy in bookshelves. Read about men, because one of the things I've seen is that we are reading less about the women in our lives, and yet we want to understand them. How do we do so? Apart from they themselves telling us who they are, we could also read generally about women, and that also would help us. Because we're reading about our courses, our vocations and professions. Why do we do that? Because there's new knowledge all the time, and we upgrade. It's scary to see somebody who has been married for years and has not read anything on marriage. So what are you doing? Meanwhile, you're always sharpening your skills and your tools with respect to your work. Knowledge is not just in you. Others can share. And what they share, you may take or leave it. Now, a man who is abusive publicly is dangerous for a wife, because it takes away the dignity of the woman and her self-esteem as well as her confidence. And so if you're a man, please desist from that kind of act. And also I think the person is a pastor. For him being a pastor, you should go and read what Henry Matthew, he has Henry Matthew's concordance and commentaries. He says, and I quote, the woman was not taken from on top of his head that she dominates the man. Neither was the woman taken from the sole of his feet that the man tramples her underfoot. But the woman was taken from his side, close to his heart, so that he can endear himself to her. And so he needs, as a pastor, to understand that the woman won't sit on his head, neither must he trample her underfoot, but he needs to graciously embrace her on his side so that he can show love to her.
All right, let's activate the phone lines now. You can give us a call, 0302-211-6910, 0302-211-69102. Lines are activated now. Send us, give us a call. And then what I'm going to do is also box it with some messages, the messages that we're receiving. Elvis is following the discussion closely. Say you're watching live from SA. Well, thank you for doing that. We've got loads of messages, and some people are also calling. The WhatsApp and the text message, that number is strictly for reading messages, so please don't call the number. You just disrupt the reading of it. This one says, I must confess that you're indeed a learned man. I salute you as I listen to your words of wisdom this morning. These are the things the upcoming youth and relationships need to learn. The man needs respect and the woman needs affection. Andrews Aqua from UCC sending us this message. This one says, give out your phone number again. Osman is 0302-211-69102. That's the number to get in touch. This one says, I love such conversations about marriage. Please, you host such programs independently. Well, you seem to be asking questions about this, but usually on Fridays we have our relationship conversations, and so this is just one of those days that we find it relevant enough to have this conversation. So let's go to the phone lines now. Enusa is in the northern region joining us. Hello, good morning to you. Oh, we just lost you there. Kindly call back. This one says, I lost my job and within a week my woman to be wants to leave. Is that the I'm not sure I get it quite. I'm confused because of that. We're having problems. What do you do, Councillor? Ima from Bolga. But let's pick another phone call and then we can box the two together. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mama.
Yes, hi. Is this Enusa?
Yes, it's Enusa.
Okay, thank you for calling. Let's hear you.
I send my greetings to Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Enusa.
I have two questions for if Councillor answer it for me. One thing, when we're going up as children, at least, we'll see that even though our fathers or our mothers, sometimes, even though they may not follow each other, maybe they will pick a lady and come and give it to your father to marry. But you see that they were not quarreling or there were no breaks up as compared to these days. But you still see that the love was there. But today, some even follow each other. 8 years, 10 years, in the end, they still break up. They will just marry within 2-3 weeks. The marriage is over. And I have a particular problem most of the time, which I don't know how to do. You have a particular love for a lady, but the problem is that she's dating more than 3 or 4 boys. In addition, you see that, and sometimes you find it difficult to want to marry such a person.
All right, okay.
Okay.
So I handle that issue for me.
Okay, all right. Thanks for calling. Let's speak to Anthony. Anthony from Wager. Are you still there? Okay, Anthony, we lost your apologies.
For Inusa, he should remember that our forebears were a bit more discreet with their conflicts. They had conflicts, and we all grew up with our parents, and we noticed conflicts and tensions from time to time. Some mothers will tell their children, I'm here because of you. Yeah. That is in itself a nail driver. Yeah. And so let's not create the impression that today's generation is not succeeding. I concede that we are a bit more vociferous because of our drive to be people who are assertive. Yeah. So that assertive nature of our women is also raising the bar. And many men are finding it a difficult one to accommodate. So we should not fault anybody. We should look at why ours are having challenges and find interventions. Okay. Now, if you have a lady who has multiple men in her life, it's a clear indication of a red flag, and you need to find a way to speak to her. And if you can handle it, don't go and carry it. Alom
is in Navrogo. Good morning, Alom.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling. Let's hear you, please.
I want to find out. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Alom, you have to turn down the volume on the television sets so you can hear just through the phone. Okay. That's fine. We can hear you all right. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to find out. I have a wife who is very supportive. Very, very supportive when it comes to finances and your career, everything. But she looks rigid, you know. Sometimes you call her, I miss you. She wouldn't even say anything. She would just say, I hear, I love you, I hear. You know, I'm not getting that much attention from her. What do I do?
Okay. All right. Good question, Alon. Thanks for sharing. Let's speak to Hayford Akwa in Kumasi. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mama V.
Yes, sir. Let's hear you, please.
Mama V, I've been listening to your program. Very nice one.
Thank you.
But I still have a problem. You know, I have a supportive woman indeed. Before marriage, I think we were in a relationship, and I realized maybe one way or the other, there was a problem in terms of faithfulness. But after the marriage, I still remember those things, and I'm still offended. But I don't know what to do to be able to, you know, do away with that.
But has she given you any cause? Do you suspect she's doing anything?
Pardon?
Do you suspect she's doing anything? I mean, the reason you're probably still reflecting on those events.
No.
Okay. So it's just what happened in the past. That's just...
Yeah, what happened in the past.
Okay. All right. Okay, Hayford. Thanks. Let's speak to John, and then we'll hold on with the phone call so we can tackle the issues. John in Laura.
Yes, my sister.
Good morning, my brother. Let's hear you.
Yes, my greeting to your great panelist.
Thank
Actually,
you.
I listened to him. He actually made my day. And I would like to tell him that he's a hero in this nation. And we would like to invite him to visit our three northern regions to give education to our married couples who are just, some of us, we don't know actually what is marriage. We think that getting married is about to raise children and then how beautiful the woman or how the man gets his money. So I think that we are just appealing to some of you people like this. They should just give us our, also visit us to come and give us some education. I don't have anything to say much, just than to say thank you to him.
All right.
Thank you very
what
much.
you've said is much. So thank you, John, for calling and sharing. But let's talk about the two issues.
Well, I think that
John.
to John, I would say thank you for your kind words. But I also want to state very quickly that I'm equally a learner on the job. I mean, the thing with marriage is this, that you prepare, but you never prepare sufficiently for marriage.
Yeah.
Because there are
some
things you have to discover.
Yeah.
And it's on the job training. And we all must submit to the on the job training.
Yeah.
You have a wife who is supportive but has a previous history of infidelity. Now, it's like pulling a tooth. Anytime your tongue grows, it goes into the cavity. That's the power of memory. Now, John needs to work, that's Hayfron,
yes,
is it?
Hayfron,
He needs to do extra work to show grace, especially when the woman has given you no reason to suspect sin. So he now needs to work on himself.
Okay.
Forgiveness. If indeed you are forgiving, work your way to graciously let go of the hangs.
Must you let the woman know that this is what you're thinking?
No, it's not necessary at this point. Otherwise, you send a certain cycle in motion, which won't help you. Yeah, it's not necessary.
So a wife who is equally supportive but is not
rigid,
responsive to
the husband's I love you. It's important to take note that not all women are verbal necessarily. Some women are not very verbal. Some are gift oriented. So when it is that you are showering all these praise on her and her temperament is not leaning towards being verbal, then clearly you've got to look at, is she looking for a gift? You haven't bought a thing for her in a long while. When last did you go out and came home with a brooch, for instance, with her name?
Or a bar
I bought it for you, a bar of chocolate, if it's the one in the cosmopolitan setting. Because if you're in the rural setting, chocolate won't really be what you want.
There's a little trick though.
Yeah.
I feel that if you want to trigger, if you want to get somebody who is not necessarily like that to be, why don't you send her, like, write a letter?
Yeah, you could.
Just write a letter. You can write a letter and post it would mean she has to reply.
Don't deliver it directly to her. Hand deliver. Don't do hand delivery. Give it to DHL or UPS.
So try
or
different
something.
things.
Try be
different
creative.
things.
I mean, she's in the office. You can order a meal for her for lunch, for her break.
Yeah, see?
You can do that.
Yeah. You can, absolutely.
You can call her. What time is your break today? If she has an hour break, you can have a fix together.
Yeah.
You shouldn't always be in the house. You can be outside the house.
You can close early and
pick her
up.
Tell her today, don't go with your car.
Oh my God, we have ideas.
Don't go with your car. Don't go with your car. I'll come and pick you up. I mean, as you're driving, you're stroking, and just make sure you are safe.
One of the other things, I think for men, because we were talking about you today, one of the things that women, one of the things I love is when you call me and say, today don't pick the boys, I will.
I will.
Oh my God. So you can do things
That's
like
a
that.
help from above. Yeah, I think we all need to lessen the weight on our necks so that we don't break our back. And everybody wants somebody who will bring relief to them, whether male or female. Sure. But because our focus has been on the males today, that's how we've gone the route that we have taken. Yeah. I mean, I think I've dealt with the
you have. We've got to end this at some point, but I feel that we have to do a follow-up conversation because we haven't absorbed. Messages are many. Yeah. I can probably end with this. What will you do to a cheating husband who cheats on you with a lady you know? This is Jane in Tamale asking.
A lady you know, that's really, really harsh. Because what he has done is to create a foul atmosphere between you and the lady. You can't connect smoothly, ever.
And even in the area, like how will people see you?
The testimony, that's where I was going to come. The public statements being made. He puts you in a state of reproach. You become a byword and a reference, which is not positive. The third thing is this, that the man himself is hurting himself by the things he's doing. And so he needs to help by desisting from these things. And the woman needs to sit with the man and raise the issues with him. Sometimes they are quick to go and target the other woman, and the woman will tell you, go and speak to your husband.
Yeah. I'm not the one chasing him.
I'm not the one chasing him. He's the one coming after me. Go, if you have any advice, give it to your husband.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to make the woman your focus. Fill your man up. Now, to the wives, let me ask you, what is it that you can give to your husband that no woman on earth can give him? That's your niche. That's your brand advantage. Is there anything your husband will leave home and relish coming back for? It's not sex. I'm not talking about sex. Many of us are quick to go to sex. No, it's not sex. Is there something that stands you out amongst all the women?
There should be something.
There should be, because that's what keeps him. That's your secret. That's your code. And so if you want to keep your man, there must be something about you that no woman on earth can supply him. And that's something we all, and it's the same for the husbands, that they will focus on the women, will raise those issues as well.
But we're not done with this, because, as we're streaming, we're getting lots of comments on Facebook as well.
No worries.
And the messages that I have, I haven't even read a quarter of the messages. But because we're doing all angles, let's quickly just do the Facebook. But we will have a part 2 of this conversation. There's one. Okay. What do you do if you advise your wife to stop calling male friends because you feel she's unsafe, but she never stops? That's from Bright. But we'll
men don't like rivals.
Okay, so on Facebook, men will always go the extra mile to do crazy stuffs for the one they love. But for women, Kai, they will leave you for another man. Mark Johnson says it's a pity how most of our women refuse to support us. All you hear them say is women are not to be trusted. But for every 100 men that have financially support their women, and they left them. Okay, so you're just doing some rough statistics there. I get you. Moyam says, I'll gladly help her if I'm capable. We need to, we have to be sure the question that you've posted, because that's what is getting the response. Dominic says, I will not support my wife again.
Could it be the one on cheating?
Her first tertiary education through thick and thin, but she has this ill ideology. Self-sufficient, so she won't help in any way, not even our family project, but expect me to soberly continue shopping and giving her money as usual. Okay, so we need to wait, Fred. We need to go back to the question that you posted.
Could it be?
Yeah.
Could it be the one on infidelity?
What will you do to support your partner if he or she is struggling with his or her finances? Share your experiences and thought with us on the show.
So it wasn't man
Not necessarily.
It was generic.
Okay, so that's what is getting us all the views. But thank you to all those who are following us on Facebook as well. We have a second part of this conversation.
But there's something I want to say to those who are yet to enter into marriage. There's something I observe which is quite disconcerting. You see, this ring I wear, it was my wife who presented it to me on our wedding day. She paid for it. But I'm seeing a trend which is worrying, where the young man has obligation to buy all the rings and give one to the lady to present to him.
Oh, that's not the story?
It's not supposed to be so.
Oh.
Because when you go to a wedding setting, they ask you, where are your tokens? As a reminder. So the woman says, I give you this as a reminder of our covenant. I've started a new call. The women, you are to buy this token, present it to the man, not the man buying it and giving it to you to place on his finger. And then secondly, I'm seeing men dressing their brides, paying all the bills for her dressing. Lady, dress yourself and your father presents you to your husband. Thereafter, he's responsible for your adornment. Too much pressure is brought to bear on young men who are seeking to marry. They buy all these things, and the lady just comes and sits back. So that's closure for the younger men from me.
I have follow-ups. But I want to reserve
your follow-up.
Yes,
I want to reserve. Next conversation from there.
Yeah, because maybe one for the road. If he's wearing a ring that I didn't buy, can I change it then?
Don't change it. Don't. It has been blessed.
Oh, we can do the whole blessing again.
Don't go and bless it. But this is futuristic. That's why I said that this particular one is for those who are yet to consummate.
This is a must conversation. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
It's always an honor.
But thank you for, I don't know. I think God has blessed you so much.
His grace.
And you're always a blessing.
I'm grateful.
To all of us. All of us. I asked the questions, but I learned so much and I picked so much from our conversation.
Thank you.
So thank
you. Thank you for the honor. And
Amos Kevin Annan is going on to Adom FM. I'm not saying stop watching JM show and go to Adom FM.
They're going to do multitasking.
Yeah. Okay,
listening and viewing.
But you'll be back next week and then
yes,
we'll have a continuation of this conversation. Thank you so much.
But for those in Takwa, I'm coming to Takwa.
Okay, yeah.
There's a singles event tomorrow. So if you're in Takwa, look out for it.
Yeah. If you're in the Western region, I mean, you can just take a trip and go. And
yes.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Right. So you're there tomorrow, Saturday, 9 p.m.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay.
To 1:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know the venue yet?
It is at the PIWC, Pentecost International Worship Center in Takwa, somewhere around Takwa.
All right, but it's open. It's open.
It's a citywide event for singles, for spouses. You are invited. Just come.
All right. Enjoy the program. Safe trip as well.
Thanks.
All right. Stay with us. Up next. Oh, if you sent me a message, a text message, a WhatsApp message that we haven't read, is because we received lots of them. But we're going to visit the issue again next week. So, yeah.